I'm with the Canadian Digital Media Network, that's the CDMN. We are an ICT-based organization. I think you all know who TVN is, hopefully. And I'm going to talk about IoT. And what I want to do with all this, and IoT is the Internet of Things, and I'm going to get into that a little bit, but what I want to do is talk a little bit of how Internet things, the sort of the pervasiveness and where I see the Internet of Things going, how it applies to the aging, healthcare, frail, etc. And then I want to talk a little bit about what we as an organization are doing and how I think we could work together in order to advance some of these initiatives. So, who's heard of the Internet of Things? Okay, that's good. Who knows what the Internet of Things is? I expected fewer hands because in my experience, if I've asked that question, if I ask 100 people, I get about 150 different answers as to what the Internet of Things is. But what seems to be consistent and wherever I see and whatever I read is it's the new, best, biggest, greatest thing that's going to solve all of our problems. Well, I think that's yet to be seen, but there's some interesting statistics out there. So from my perspective, the Internet of Things, and luckily sort of the two speakers ahead of me have set this up pretty nicely. I think the Internet is here to stay. I don't think it's a fad. So that's one thing. So then let's use it. So from our perspective and my perspective, well, the Internet of Things isn't just about the Internet. It's how do we get value out of the Internet. And it's about connected things. So I guess that's the things part of the Internet of Things. But it's not just about connected people. It goes beyond that. And I think the Internet of Things revolution is increasingly more about connected devices. So you've got a number of things that are out there that are connected, machines, computers, sensors, you name it. And what's going on is, hopefully, they're creating value in the background. And I think value still has to be measured based on what's the value that's being delivered to the individual. I think that's what's got to be sort of at the focus of all of this. And the Fitbit, I have a Fitbit. I don't have the Fitbit on me right now. I often pull out the Fitbit and say, to me, this is an Internet of Things thing. And why is it an Internet of Things thing? Because this little Fitbit, without me having to do much of anything, is attached to me, and it's measuring things that I can't particularly measure all that easily myself. And it's providing value to me because it's giving me an indication of how active I am. And more so, when this little Fitbit device gets close to my computer, all the lovely data that's tapped on or that's been measured over the course of the day gets uploaded to a website, and then it tabulates all this information. And if I choose to share that information, then it will provide me suggestions in terms of, for my activity level and what I do, some things that I might want to consider to improve my quality of life. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, cool doesn't necessarily cut it. Like I say, I'm not wearing it right now, so maybe it's been just a fad. But I like the idea because, again, I think it does illustrate what the Internet of Things can be. And so, as I mentioned, the Canadian Digital Media Network is not necessarily about healthcare. We're about ICT, information and communications technology. And if I were to look at the various vertical sectors that may exist in this country and around the world, like automotive, energy, and healthcare, I guess what I position is that ICT and the Internet of Things is really an enabler that works across all of those. And that creates tremendous opportunity. And that's where I'm particularly excited about what we do, is because I see equivalently opportunities for the Internet of Things and ICT, not only in the energy and gas sector or automation, but equivalently in healthcare, and for providing value to the individual through the connection of devices and things. So I'm going to shamelessly borrow some video from IBM that talks a little bit about the Internet of Things. So the planet has grown a central nervous system. Part of that scares the hell out of me, and part of it excites me. Because I think that's what this is, because the world is becoming a much more connected place. So one of the slides, I always try to include a slide in every presentation that states the obvious. So again, the previous speakers have set this up quite nicely. Obviously, healthcare, caring for the elderly, whatever condition they may be in, is an issue that's relevant to Canada, but more importantly is relevant to the world. So it's something that we cannot ignore. It's that impinging or that oncoming tsunami, if you will. But the way I look at it is a little bit broader, and again, from the perspective of two things. One, it's about quality of life. And two, it's about utilizing ICT and IoT in order to improve on that quality of life. So it's not just about monitoring the vital signs of an individual in their home. It's not just about having nanotechnology that can be embedded in a pill that they swallow to make sure that the medication has been taken and it's being distributed throughout the body. I think you also need to take into account the connections of the individual with their physical environment, and that allows them to live in their own homes and to live there safely. And if something were to occur, to provide the infrastructure and the mechanism in order to, get the help that they need if they encounter a situation. So it's not just about physical health, it's about mental health, and it's about quality of life in general, even to the social. So let's not just talk about making sure that we detect falls in the bathroom and that the vital signs are all in the normal and proper range. Let's talk about how do we help them to book that next tee time at the golf course. And let's give them an overall quality of life and give them necessities that go along with this. And so from my perspective, you're probably getting the fact that I believe that IoT, ICT, sensors, and everything that goes along with it is a potential solution to some of the challenges that we're facing going forward. I do not want to position it as a panacea, because I don't think it is. But I think there are certain things that if we adopt the technology properly, and we are actually out there solving real problems as opposed to deploying technology for the sake of coolness, for the sake of saying we could do it, then I think there's lots that we can do and there's lots to be gained. And I think that's all possible. But again, what's the value of it? So now you can imagine not only are you connected in your own home or in the hospital, you're connected anywhere that you are. Because we are, the world is developing or even has developed this central nervous system, and it is connected. And it's about the connectivity, but it's about the data that's collected, and it's about what we do with that data. And it's not just about being reactive, it's about being predictive. And all of these things are very much possible. Well, where does it start? So we've got this physical world, whether it's whether it's a room or whether it's an individual or whether it's an MRI machine or a heart rate monitor or whatever. We've got this thing in the physical world. And what we want to do is we want to connect it for a greater good. And so as a result, they need to be brought online in some form or some way. And typically that's going to be done through some sort of sensors. So some work that's been done now, and as in terms of talking about adoption, is, okay, so let's look at sensor investments, because it's really becoming a leading indicator of where we are in terms of this adoption of the Internet of Things. And so what we're finding, and this is information that's been most recently compiled by PwC, is if you look at the percentages in terms of global sensor adoption, North America is lagging behind once again. And it's a shame, because for multiple reasons. One, I believe, and I think it's been proven, that we as North Americans are probably going to suffer the most from a lack of dealing with this challenge. And two, and I think the pity and the shame of it all is that we have all the puzzle pieces that we need in this country, from the talent, from the skills, from the expertise, from the knowledge and the intelligence, to actually take a leadership position in, whether it be healthcare or whether it be in manufacturing or whatever. And every time I see statistics like this, it boggles my mind, because I don't get it. Because we do have that capability and we can make a difference. So out of the same study, PwC looked at, okay, so we've got industries adopting sensors or integrating sensors and using sensors. So, healthcare, I think it doesn't matter. I think it's part of every election campaign. It's on the front page of the newspaper often. It's a trouble, it's a problem, and everything like that. And yet still we're sort of middle of the pack in terms of looking at adopting Internet of Things technology and ICT in order to deal with that challenge. So again, I think it's symptomatic of a challenge that we face as a nation. And certainly I think it falls on us in order to try and make a difference and bring some of these things to fruition. So now I've set the stage and sort of, giving you my impression of the Internet of Things and why I think it should matter and sort of where we stand as a nation. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Canadian Digital Media Network and what we're doing in this space. But first and foremost, I guess you have to understand a little about who CDMN is. So a couple things about that. Digital media. We use digital media, information communications technology interchangeably. I will shamelessly say that we called it digital media because that was a priority for the government at the time we were looking for funding. So, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But so we are in the Networks of Centers of Excellence family, just like TVN as well is. So TVN is more focused on the research side of things, and as you can probably see from our perspective, we're more focused on commercialization. So if we look at who is our major stakeholder are tech companies, small, medium, and large. And through our network across Canada, we look to connect them and build those best practices and essentially bring resources to bear for the companies that we serve in order to help accelerate their outcomes. So the way we're measured by the government is how many companies have we helped start, how many jobs have we helped create, and how much wealth have we helped to create. And again, it's slightly different measures than the traditional NCE. But the way I look at it is as part of we're affectionately called a Centers of Excellence in Commercialization and Research, or a CSER. It took me a while to figure out what the heck they were talking about with CSER when we first got to learn the lingo. But essentially, what we've done is we have worked to partner with traditional NCEs in order to position ourselves as their commercialization partner to help take the research and innovation that may be developed in their network and then help to transfer that into economic wealth and growth through commercialization. So to date, we have 29 hubs across the country, and as the video indicated, these are all regionally located hubs. They all are thriving on their own. They're independent in many ways. The value that we bring to this is that we connect them together for the purposes of sharing resources, sharing best practices in order to help our companies. So we've got significant reach since we started and launched the center just over 5 years ago. So we are also funded by 5-year mandates, and we recently went through our renewal process and were successful. So we're around for another 5 years. And again, it's all about connectedness. And in many ways, the network that we've built is really no different than the Internet of Things and how we sort of share knowledge, share expertise, and bring value to our clients. So part of what we also do in order to help our companies is give them international reach. And we do that through our soft landing program. And so what we do is we help small, medium-sized organizations land in international locations for the purposes of helping them deploy and execute on their international business strategy. Because one of the things that we try to infuse into our companies right from the start is that they need to think globally, whether they're a one-person startup or they're a 10,000-person enterprise. And what we try to do is try to help them and provide resources in order for them to help explore and, more importantly, execute on their international strategies. So through our soft landing program, provide a little bit of funding to companies to land into international destinations for up to 3 months, and then help them to connect with resources while they're there in order to execute on their strategies. So we've done 104 landings to date over the last couple of years, and that's led to significant net new revenue and significant investment to these companies. And so we're continuing to do that as we move forward and expand the program. So how does this tie to healthcare? So again, if you go back to the diagram that showed that ICT and IoT as an enabler, as a horizontal, we do work with healthcare companies by nature. But it's more those that are involved with the technology and ICT component to what they do. So there's a number of companies. So Iago, I think is the way you pronounce their name. They're based out of Vancouver. We helped them do a soft landing in London and give them access to the UK market and help them to execute on some initiatives there. Mespier is a Waterloo region-based company, and they've developed technology to help measure the central venous pressure and blood flow. And we helped them land in California and India in order to execute on their strategies. And Mosaz, I think, is on the agenda for today, and that's just by coincidence. But they're Waterloo and Oakville based. And we helped them land in Mississippi, Florida, and India in order to execute on their initiatives. So it's recognizing that they can provide value to Canada with what they offer, but it's also that there's global opportunity in what we do too. And going back to the Internet of Things, so BlackBerry has been a strong partner of the CDMN right from the outset. We've stood by them through their good times and their bad times. And they are evolving their strategy based on the opportunity around the Internet of Things. Excuse me. So they are in the process of launching an Internet of Things platform. And what this platform will do is allow those sensors that I talked about to actually get on the Internet, transfer data, analyze data, and provide value. And so we, as CDMN, are working with them as a private sector partner to help them engage with the community, the developer community, to actually develop and deploy these applications. And we're very excited by what they have to offer, and I think it's a turning point for BlackBerry. It's something that we certainly support, and I think they've got a great opportunity in not only the healthcare, but also a number of other sectors. And another thing that we do from a CDMN perspective that we bring to bear to help our companies is cluster building. So if we see a cluster, an area, a sector that has particular promise in which we think our companies can play a significant role and extract particular benefit, then we'll lead the charge with the private sector being sort of the strong supporting partners in order to develop and launch these clusters. And one of the net new ones that will be coming in a couple of months or so, or we'll be launching, is the Open Data Exchange. So we came together with our partners and proposed the creation of an Open Data Exchange, which is essentially, as the name implies, it's an exchange for open data. Open data being, in this case, the hundreds of thousands of data sets that the government collects and makes available on a regular basis, whether it be municipal, provincial, or federal. And what we want to do as the Open Data Exchange is be that intermediary that helps the private sector tap into that resource. Because the way we see open data is it's a natural resource in many ways. It's a natural resource that's constantly being created. And I think, unlike other natural resources where we've typically milled it, drilled it, or killed it, and then sent it to somebody else to process, and we buy it back at a higher price and essentially give up a chunk of the value chain, we're positioning open data as the opportunity for Canada to own the entire value chain. And I see this as being a component and an element of the Internet of Things phenomena as well. Because the Internet of Things just isn't about the connectivity, it's about the data, it's about the fusing of data, and it's extracting knowledge so that we can create solutions that add value to society as a whole. So that's coming, and very excited by the opportunity there. So I guess in summary, what I'd like to leave the message is that the CDMN is about looking at cluster development, and it's about helping the private sectors companies to improve and accelerate health outcomes through ICT and IoT. Partnerships are a big part of what we do. That's how we've got to be where we are, and certainly tap into expertise that we don't possess as a group and organization ourselves. But I think there's great opportunity, and again, I'd love to explore those opportunities. So I'll leave you with the message that we're here to help. We see great opportunity in this space, and I'd love to look at opportunities to work together to bring some of those dreams to reality. Thank you.